I've really been struggling recently, to be honest, and I feel weird talking about it because the very idea of talking about it really gives me the impression that people are going to think I'm being whiny in the hopes of getting something, which, I mean, if I was, then whatever, that's a me problem. But I just feel like I need to get it out of my system that I have felt really lonely in the Taekwondo community generally for a while. And that is partially self-inflicted, but I feel like it's also partially not. And I'll explain for why. Because this isn't really documented online, but I used to regularly compete at least once a month, and there was a time where I did 6 consecutive weeks right before lockdown that got cut off, and I was really sad about it. And I would also go to like squad trainings and regular trainings, and I have actually almost, I don't think I've ever guested at someone else's club for a regular class before. I'm trying to do that now as well, but I don't think I've actually done that. But like training sessions that are open, I go and do seminars and things, and I used to do that at least once a month, sometimes as much as 3 times a month, like, because like these all happen on the weekends. You only get one opportunity every week, to be honest. It is kind of my dream to do a back-to-back 2 competitions in one weekend, which my friend Joe is doing before me, and I'm so annoyed that he beat me to it. But it's sort of a blend between scheduling, ability, and location that you don't have full control over that allows you to try that. But yeah, no. So I used to do that at least once a month. And then I resigned from my squad, and my intention was just like, I wasn't getting what I was sort of advertised out of the squad. It didn't feel worth the time and money investment and like the short notice for things, and it didn't feel like it was really like getting what was pitched to me, and I felt like I wasn't getting the benefits worth the investment I was making at that point in time. And it's nothing to do with the people there. It was just like logistically I felt like I was better focusing on myself, being independent, focusing on my businesses, and focusing on getting DebbersDo digital sorted out before I could move on to building this martial arts brand up, which is what I'm focusing on this year more, is making my martial arts content more. Now I'm in a routine with my digital marketing content on my other channel more. And I resigned, and I took a couple of weeks, and then I also resigned from my, at the time, stable job, because I'm a mainly self-employed individual, but I maintain part-time employment so I can know I'm definitely going to pay my bills in the city centre of Manchester. And I left there sort of unplanned. Like, it was in the back of my head for a while, but like I didn't have anything immediate lined up, and in my sort of skill set area, I can sort of almost scare people off with the fact that I am not an entry-level person. I am a highly experienced individual, and even if I'm lowering my personal standards on what I believe my work is worth, I'm still probably asking for more money than most people want to give, and finding a part-time marketing position that respects the ability, even if it's at lesser hours, is really hard. They kind of just, any part-time role is just, they think it's as easy as like get a student and stick some photos up on Facebook, and that's like not what it is at all. So I left my squad, and then not even a month later, I left my job that allowed me to have disposable income, basically. I was living off my savings, and I expected it to last a little while, but I had like sizable savings, and I ended up living off my savings and some gig work and my business revenue as well. I had 2 gig jobs that were employed in addition to my self-employed income that I sort of used to transition comfortably away from that stable job. But they had the busy seasons where I was like back to back every day. I was exhausted, especially like with my disabilities. It like killed me off, where I focused on that work and that money making. But then I didn't really have anything, and I ended up living off my savings for basically a whole year, which in the city centre of Manchester, by the way, well done me. I'm going to congratulate myself for that, especially because I never took out any debt for it. So that was good. And I'm back now. It took me about a year, and in that time, I didn't really do any Taekwondo events. I had intended to take maybe a month or 2 out to sort of have a mental break, so it's a bit burnt out, and to like create a mental separation between me being on my team and me just hanging out with the people who were still in the team, because they're my friends and I care about those people a lot, and we would still see each other at certain events. Like, I wanted to try and compete abroad more, but I haven't done that yet because of the money situation that unexpectedly followed. And I didn't speak to people as much. There was never a conscious effort to like cut anyone off, but I didn't speak to people as much because the majority of these relationships I have with martial artists are not at the level of we just casually message each other about our day. I have a handful of friends who I'm like super, super close to, and I can just call them and we'll have a nice chat about what we've been up to that week, or talk about a class we just went to. And it's nice to have someone to geek out about your passion with. We do that a lot, talking about patterns or history, or, you know, you've got your grading coming up, how's the training for that going? I heard you got injured last week, how are you healing? That sort of stuff. I have like less than 10 people that I feel comfortable doing that with. And even within those people, it's often me doing the reaching out. And I'm not someone who like springs to mind for others more, in a way. The majority of my relationships are people, you see them at the event and then you go, oh, you're going to be at this comp next month? Oh, yeah, I am. Oh my God, see you there. Yay. And it doesn't mean that those relationships are any like less important. It just means that it's like hard to transition from that in-person friend dynamic to she's mysteriously vanished. She's not on the circuit anymore. And like, I'm an experienced competitor. So people kind of just know me and see me around, and even if they don't know my name, they like at least see my face. And like the Taekwondo community in the UK is rather incestuous, and I'm like even in different subsects, like people tend to sort of gravitate towards groups that involve with like certain national governing bodies. I know a few people in a few of those groups, so like in all these circles I just vanished for a year and it was only really announced in one of them. And I didn't really like make a big post or anything about it. I just sort of like let a couple people know, and the word disseminated a little bit over time as like they were like, oh, why is she not training it this week? And that was really awkward, but like whatever. But even when I was attending most weeks at an event and I would see people, I felt like I was always not the default person. Like I kind of got ruined in that I used to be like the elusive girl who just appears and she gets her gold medal and then she leaves, and who was that? And like whenever I go to an event on my own, I always go on my own because my instructor has other commitments, so he doesn't often attend, and we're a very small club. We had like less than 20 regulars at our peak, and I've trained with the same club since I was a kid. I had like 5 years out, but I came back and it was largely the same people and a couple extras. And like we had to change our venue because we were getting double booked, and we were getting fobbed off in the double booking. So we changed our venue, and we could only get the venue that we had now at a different time slot. So we lost a huge amount of people when our time slot changed. So my club right now is literally like my instructor, me, as a second Dan, one lower grade who she's been on my channel before, but you know, I'm not going to name her without her being here. And then also a private student my instructor has, and she only sees him one-on-one, and she's basically like banned from grading now until she gets sparring practice in, so she's probably gonna have to come to class more. I don't know, because like at blue belt you have to be able to spar, really. It's just in the criteria. But like sometimes people come to competitions with me. For the most part, I always took myself. I would find a group to like attach to for the day, and it'd be nice and social. Maybe about like maybe a quarter of people, even if you add everyone on Facebook and you go, oh, I'll send you the footage of our fight, even if you add people on social media, only maybe a quarter of people would ever really speak to you again. And those that did are normally dudes, which like I'm not the sort of person who's like, oh my God, I never have any girlfriends because they're all drama. Like I've never been that person. I don't actually agree with that statement. It just happens that most people who stay in touch with me are dudes, and most dudes who I stay in touch with aren't necessarily social media savvy, and they don't tend to like put a lot of stock and time into it. So of the people who did make an effort to stay in touch with me, then there's the question of, are they just doing it because they fancy you, and do you want to like encourage that behavior? And it's like, which sounds a bit cocky, but I have evidence to it, so don't even question. Every time I think I'm being like stupid about it, I get proved correct, so whatever. But like, as a result of all these factors, when I sort of went away from competitions, like, and when I went away for competitions and people would have their clubs, and it's not tribal, but they're the people you train with week in, week out. They're the people you naturally have a closer relationship with. They're the people who, when you're all going to do your fight, your club's going to rally around you. You're all there in your matching dough box, and they're your I very rarely have people cheering for me when I go and fight places. When I do have people cheering for me, it makes me really happy. But even when I have friends who are at the event, they're often also competing at roughly the same time I am, because we're all similar grades. So they're either on another mat or don't know I'm fighting, or like I rarely get people like cheering for me. I normally either have active people encouraging the other person and silence for me, or active booing because they don't know who this girl is who's come in to like beat their friend. But I feel like I'm never like in the group for any group, really. And I am welcomed to people who you see regularly. They recognize you and they're really nice and you have a nice chat. And like, I feel like I'm going to talk in circles about this for a while, but those who know what I'm talking about will know, and hopefully you identify with it a bit. But even the people who include you, you feel like the extra, and you go in, you had a nice time, but then they don't really speak to you much beyond when you're next planning to see them again. So I had a whole year out of I had a whole year out of competing. I trained at my club regularly, never missed a class unless I was sick, but people are assuming I've stopped training because I've stopped coming to the extra, like, ones that you have to travel for, and that's the main reason, because, like, Manchester, around where I am, we have a lot of WT Taekwondo clubs, because that's where GB Taekwondo is based. And we have a lot of martial arts clubs generally, because like the Northwest is like, we have a lot of athletes. It's very sports heavy. We like martial arts here. As for ITF style Taekwondo clubs, very, very few. Very few. And those that exist, even with our own organization, I'm under one called the GBTF. Like, that's what our club is under right now. It's basically like we get our insurance and our dough box and our sparring equipment through them, but like we're largely independent clubs operating under one like group that manages the admin. That's sort of the intended structure of it. So we're largely independent. So we don't have like big social events in the calendar. I know groups of people down south and like in Swindon, in Kent. I know people around the Midlands. They have like these big intertangled webs of their organizations with multiple clubs, with multiple locations. And then they'll have like big social events throughout the year. Like, we have a championships that we host, but it's just the one. It's the Northern Championships, but they're only championships. And these clubs will have like Great Britain Championships, United Kingdom tournaments, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, all of it. Like the regional ones, South, North, East, whatever. They have all these different competitions and seminars, and then social events. Like, they'll have Christmas parties, and there's an awards ceremony at the end of the year, and we've got student of the year, male, female student of the year, best patterns practitioner, best sparrer. Like, there are all these awards, and I would go to like award ceremonies for either wider organizations or like other people's organizations, because I'm friends with the people there and I want to support it and I want to go and see my friends. But as someone who, like, no one who's of authority in my club or my organization level, they're never really in attendance. So there's no one there who is motivated to give me any kind of award, which I don't need the award, but like, it's nice to feel included. Like, people were thinking of you when you weren't there. I kind of just feel like I pop up and I'm a nice seat filler a lot of the times, because I'm a very sociable person. I like dancing at parties. I like talking and like making conversation. I enjoy getting to know people. I truly have a passion for learning about other people. Like, I get told that I like give like really intense eyes sometimes when I'm looking at someone, and they almost like get a bit like confused, and I just go, no, I'm listening. I'm really listening to you, because I like hearing about other people's experiences and how their training has gone and where they started, and have you always had the same instructor? What's something that you learned recently? What's like a wall you recently broke through in your training? I really want to know. And that makes me a great person to meet, but I feel like that's sort of the level most people stay at with me. Like, I'm again, it sounds really cocky to say, but like, I'm a really unique individual, and I'm an interesting person to like come across, because you meet most people and you'll say, oh, what have you done recently that you're really proud of, or something that you really achieved, or like, what's your passion? And everyone just goes, I don't know, I went to work. And that's kind of boring though. Oh, and like, I got to class and we did this, but like, I didn't do anything special. Like, people talk themselves down a lot, and I, like, when I meet someone new, I go, oh, well, I have my business, and I have this other martial arts brand that I'm working on building, and I made some art into a product recently, and I went to this competition recently, and I've got a home gym, and I have a power rack in my living room. Like, I have no filter on, like, I'm not private, so I'll tell people everything about myself. I met some new people from an online server that I host on Discord last night. I met them in person. It was a husband and wife, and they were like the first time I was meeting them. We'd only been messaging online for like a month, but they moved to Manchester and they wanted local friends, so we made a plan to go get a drink. And they told me something that I'm told all the time, which is, I feel really comfortable around you because it feels like I've known you for years and years, even though we barely know you. And it's because you're so open and you've not got any sort of barriers, and people feel like they're able to let their barriers down around you. And I feel like that's true. I wish I could say I was shocked by it, but I've had it so many times in my life that it's like I just know at this point that people say that. But then it feels like I'm a whimsy, like I'm a fun person to meet and talk to and hang out with, but then I'm also simultaneously told that people either feel intimidated by me or people feel like they can't keep up with me. And this is not stuff that I've interpreted, this is stuff people tell me. And they feel like they're not interesting enough to like have a conversation with me, because then it just leaves them feeling lesser. I've had friends fall out with me, and luckily like the more important ones we've like reunited, but I've had people fall out with me because I make them feel inferior, not because I'm saying anything about them, but because of like what I'm saying about myself. And then I go, and what about you? Because I actually care about what they have to say. And then they just feel like they have nothing comparable, even though we're not supposed to be comparing, we're supposed to be exchanging. And it's like a whole thing. And I feel like just a lot of people don't reach out to me, and I feel like I don't cross people's minds when I'm not there. It's because like I'm just like off in the side. I'm like an extra character who's like here for the plot, but not here for the overarching story arc. I don't know how else to describe it, but like I'm in the process of reconnecting with like the Taekwondo community in the UK, because I had my year out and I've stabilized myself. I broke up with my long-term boyfriend and I quit that job. I still have my business, yay, still got all the me things going on, but I'm soon going to be more financially stable again, which will enable me to feel comfortable going out to go to more events and go and like visit other people's clubs and go and compete more again. And I still really want to compete abroad, I really do. I have some people who are in other countries who might be able to like help me stay over and stuff, which is like, that always confused me as well, because people are always like confused why I didn't ask to stay over at their place or something. Like, why'd you get a hotel? And it's like, well, I didn't feel like inviting myself to stay at your house, so that sort of got around a bit. And people will like, oh, come and stay with us, you can sleep in our place for the night, we'll pick you up, it'll be nice. And I feel truly included and valued when that happens, but like at the same time I still feel like people do it out of an obligation in a sense, because it means they have more people attending the event, because there's always this like, how are we going to make it financially viable if people don't turn up? The images are going to look really rubbish if we haven't got a big enough headcount. Like, that's always in the back of my head, and I truly believe that the people who like offer to do that and like invite me places, I know they like me and I know they care about me to a degree, but there's part of me that always feels like the outsider. And that's like something I probably just have to reconcile, but I think it's largely because I'm so talkative and proactive and enthusiastic about like getting to know people that it's almost impossible for people to reciprocate on what I believe to be an equal level. And like sometimes I'll just go, I'm exhausted by being the proactive one this week, I'm not reaching out to anyone until they reach out to me for a while. Not in the I believe they don't care, oh they should be doing all the work. I literally don't care about that, but just truly wanting to know, if I don't reach out first, how long will it take for someone to come to me? And I just get really depressed by the durations. It can go like weeks, months. Like there are some people I've not talked to since I last saw them in person like a couple of years ago, and I'm not actively sitting there like, oh my god, that person hasn't messaged me. Like, I'm not doing that, but it just makes me feel like a little sad and just a little icky. And it doesn't mess with my self-confidence. I like me, but and I'm sure that other people do also like me, but it just feels like their importance to me is not equal to how important I am to them. And that's like most people. And I don't know where I've gone on this. Like, basically I'm saying like the Taekwondo community that I'm involved in is not very locally centered, because there's very few people around in my sort of area of martial arts. Even if I extend my reach to other martial arts, like I don't know a lot of people in the area who like are my vibe. I know martial artists nearby, but like personality wise we don't gel as much, for example, and there's less compulsion for us to like hang out and be mates outside of bumping into each other at events. And the ones that I do care about are all very far away, so it's just like a big mess. Like one of my best friends lives in the Isle of Wight. Like I live in Manchester. The man is a country boy and he gets so uncomfortable even like coming through here. He picked me up like one time and he had a panic attack and it was like so bad. Well, not a panic attack, but like he was stressy, and he's not keen to come back, but I just want him to come and visit me. And like obviously even if he were to stay over, like man's still got a long way to get home, so he just wants to go home by that point. He's got work, people have work, like all this happens in a weekend, and it's normally an event on a Sunday when transport is like really awkward as well, and I have to travel like far and wide, and it's really like if you miss one train you gotta wait 2 hours instead of like what would be a half hour any other day of the week. Or people who drive just want to get in their car and go home because they're tired, so then like I kind of want to like just take a long train with someone somewhere. Like I've got very few people around here who could do the traveling with me and hang out with me all day. So even when I make the effort and go to events, and I enjoy it, I do it for me. I started this whole thing because I like it, and like I would go on my own until I made these connections by seeing the same people over and over. But I don't drive. I don't have a desire to drive or get a car. I took driving lessons and it was like, I can operate the car, but I can't follow the laws of the road, and it just stressed me out, to be honest. I don't think it's a good mindset to be in before a fight. And I like sitting on trains and looking out the window and playing my music and doing some work on my laptop. I like it. But I could be traveling for basically a whole day up and down the country, like most weekends, and I would be there like on my own for the majority of it. And then the event itself, like maybe you're invited to a meal the night before, but then that's an expense that I would sometimes struggle to account for even when I could afford to go. And like it's an awkward middle of nowhere pub with like no good transport connections because leisure centres are expensive to rent, so they're always in like country bumpkin or suburbia, and it's like isolated and there's nothing around it. And like I would spend like the majority of my weekend traveling up and down on my own with some headphones on in a cold train, and on the way back I'm normally sweaty because it's not an opportunity to like shower before you get home, so I'm sweaty, cold, hungry, beaten up. I change out of different clothes, but you know that's only helps to a certain degree, for like maybe between 5 and 9 hours of hanging out with people in a competition hall where everyone's rushing around and everyone's talking, like, and everyone's doing laps. And sometimes I get dragged in to help with umpiring, which, like, I'm happy to help, but I'm not a qualified umpire and I don't enjoy it. And that means I'm sat there on a chair doing what is largely a chore in this social event that I have paid to attend to for me, to do my hobby. Like, I still get to do my fights, I do my divisions, it doesn't interrupt with me actually competing, but you can't really hang out with anyone while you're competing, you can't hang out with anyone while you're umpiring unless it's like the other umpires, and normally you're sat on a chair on your own silently looking at people. And I just feel like I'm really robbed of a lot of the connection that I seek from these encounters, and that carries over when you're away from the event and you're like not being reached out to by anyone else in the Taekwondo world, because they're focused on their own little subset. They're back at their club with their like 20 to 50 people and their little microcosm of their governing body organization, and they're doing the admin, and it's some people it's their whole job, and I got another job I got to focus on some of the time, and the people who it isn't their full-time job, then they're focusing on like their social circles with their own club outside of their job. So I don't have an endpoint. I don't have an endpoint. I'm re-engaging because I can afford to re-engage now. I feel like most people would never ask me these questions on like anything that would spur me to verbalize these thoughts, because like who would ask? It's almost weird. Like, it's not rude to ask where have you been the past year, but most people feel uncomfortable asking that for some reason because they're worried of what your answer will be. What if like you've had a horrible illness, which like almost been diagnosed with lupus, investigating that. I do have loads of things wrong with me, but that's not the reason why I wasn't there, medically speaking. But like no one's gonna ask. And I needed to get the thoughts out, so I don't really have an endpoint. And it's so depressing. I was talking to a friend who owns a club relatively nearby, like in the Midlands. Like, it's a couple hours on a train, reasonable to go, like with planning. Couldn't really just pop over spontaneously, given the timings, but I wanted to go to a class for my birthday, and we were talking and like arranging that, and then it turns out that like I might not be able to because Easter is round about when my birthday is, and their class is going to be cancelled. on my actual birthday they have a class, but then I would need to rejig my work days, and I like that's still pending, but like it's it feels like it still feels like it's me fighting for that interaction where I just want to see my friends, I just want to kick some people I care about in the face. I do. And I feel like it was my idea. I reached out, we had the conversation. I was sort of trying to lead the logistics, but then I needed like some help on like maybe I need a place to stay, who knows. And then when that was getting investigated, they were helping with it, they were looking. And then they've come back and said, oh, sorry, it turns out we're actually closed that day. So it feels like any attempt I make to reach out is always just met with like a proverbial slam in the face, even when it's no one's fault. It feels like I'm almost punished for trying sometimes, and that's just how I feel. And it's almost embarrassing because I feel like complaining about it sounds like whinier than I ever intend to be. And just like, I don't expect people to like come barge down my door and say, you're coming with us and you're going to the gym. But like, I don't really have friends locally except for 2 or 3 like who are at my club or at my gym or something. I don't have like local friends who want to work out. I went to go train with some the other day, and like the plan was I was going to practice my bow staff and they were going to practice their circus skills, but they brought some extra friends who didn't do circus, so they like ended up just like sitting on the ledge smoking. One of them brought their baby, which like, again, it's all fine that they can do that, but I just felt like I was a bit isolated on that front because I can't like practice near the baby, near the smoke, don't want to do that, and I need the distance. And I was just sort of there on my own listening to the music with my staff. Like these, like it was kind of a these are not my people moment. One of them actually was my friend, and they brought like people I don't know, so it's reasonable, but I'm here to do the martial art. And I just feel like any attempt to really like get that in my day-to-day outside of the great effort of logistically planning to go to an event across the country, financially affording it, you have to do the training before it so you actually like succeed when you get there, because I am competitive, I want to win, and then when I do get there I'm fighting to be left alone as a black belt so I can actually go and have the social time, as opposed to helping out with the admin side of it and like helping as a coach or like being an assistant. Like it's a lot of work, and I feel like I'm struggling to get a large part of what I want out of my main hobby, my passion hobby. I struggle with that. And it would just be nice sometimes if more people actively reached out to me and came to visit me, because we don't have events for them up here. They don't really get organized. And everyone goes, well, if you want to do it yourself. And it's like, well, but it's not my job. And the people who say that, it very much is their job. They own the clubs. They're like, they make money from students. They would benefit from having like events because it's a form of marketing as well. And like, I'm just here to turn up and enjoy myself. I pay to do that. But if I want people to come to me, there has to be an event that's worth for them coming to, and they have to feel like they're incentivized to come. So it either has to be a really unique event that they can't find elsewhere and it's really enticing, or normally it's based off the social network, the community that is up here, which is very few people that they know, because like most people won't travel out of their region, and it's a self-fulfilling cycle. And like it would be really nice if some people just like just messaged me one day and went, I'm coming up to visit you, let's go do some training, let's go to the gym, and then we'll hang out and maybe like play some games or like go for a drink or whatever, something like non-Taekwondo related. But like it would be really nice if more people were proactive about that. And it makes me sound like Billy No Mates. I do have friends from other like areas of my life that are around here, but it's like an area of my personality that I want to be able to engage with more casually. So yeah, I'm getting weirdly upset about this now. I'm going to stop talking now because like I will just talk in circles about this forever. But it was kind of nice to get it off my chest, and I feel the slight tears welling up in the back of my face. Not it's not overwhelming me, but I can feel myself getting like mushy, so I am going to stop now because this is a long video already. But thank you very much for listening. I'm going to be posting more with respect interviews soon, and hopefully more just martial arts focused content that's not just me spouting my mind. But this is why vlogs exist. They're video logs. It's a log of my emotions. It's a video diary. This is the origin of vlogs. We are old school YouTubing right now. So yeah, thank you for listening. Please subscribe. I wanted to live stream one of my club sessions, which I was going to look into, but it turns out that you need 25 subscribers to be able to live stream. I forgot that because like on this channel it's fresher, it's newer, got like no subscribers. I forgot that there was even a threshold because I've had live streaming for so long on my other channel. So make sure you subscribe, and I'm hoping to get a mic soon. That means I can mic myself while I'm training more effectively, because like the rifle pointy mics, they just ain't doing it when you're like sparring and stuff. So hopefully that'll happen in the future and we can live stream some classes and you can hear my live thoughts while we're training. But yes, thank you, goodbye.